Okay, I'm alive. Hey, how are you doing tonight? Um, well, I haven't really mentioned it too much, but the more I'm hearing about the primary challenge between Joe Kennedy and Ed Markey, it's just making me think about my thoughts on this, and this is where I come in to share it. Um, Ed Markey is currently one of the U.S. Democratic senators from Massachusetts, serving alongside with Elizabeth Warren. I'm not sure if he's the senior U.S. senator or the junior U.S. senator. I'm just not sure of that. But um, anyway, so that right now, I mean, he's been senator for I guess 2013, I believe that he's been senator. Anyway, he's a standard Massachusetts Democrat, and I'm not. That's actually not a bad thing per se, judging American politics and the political Overton window, and a very insufficiently progressive Democratic Party, or a Democratic Party that's insufficiently progressive. Um, I would say in a range of a grade scale of A through F. I mean, obviously someone like Joe Manchin of West Virginia would be an F for me, and someone like Bernie Sanders would be even though he's not a Democrat, but Bernie Sanders from Vermont would be an A. I mean, I would say maybe the late Paul Wellstone, who was a Democrat when he was alive, would be an A, and someone like Joe Lieberman of Connecticut, former senator of Connecticut, would be a freaking F. So, where would Ed Markey be? Where Elizabeth Warren is, and I would say maybe a B minus, and that's a very generous grade considering my thoughts for the Democratic Party as a general rule. Overall, I would say that the Democratic Party is a D minus. Republicans is like completely an F, a flat out zero F. Um, anyway, Ed Marquez is facing a primary challenge from Joe Kennedy, the that family name from that's dominated Massachusetts politics for many years. Yeah, Joe Kennedy. Yeah, and I want to share you my thoughts on Joe Kennedy, and because the thing about it is that I have there's a lot of liberals have admired the Kennedy family. It is, for the Kennedys, they're more or less our version of the royal family in the UK, especially if you are a liberal, and some Republicans too, because there are Republicans there are Republicans that like John F. Kennedy for some reason. They're like, well, why can't the Democratic Party be like JFK, who initiated tax cuts? Which is kind of ironic because John F. Kennedy was also for single payer Medicare for all, but I guess that's not good. But anyway, but Joe Kennedy, well, he is a congressman from the congressional fourth district of Massachusetts, Boston area. Barney Frank's old district when he was a member of the U.S. House of Representatives. Yep. So anyway, Kennedy. I mean, that name has lost all meaning as far as I'm concerned. It has. The Kennedy family, to me, is a mixed bag. Generically across the board, I would say that the Kennedys are ideologically better than not. But I prefer the Kennedys, for example, to the Clintons. But neither the Kennedys nor the Clintons were the Roosevelts. And you really honestly don't hear too much about the Roosevelt family in politics anymore. They're around, but you just don't hear about them. Well, anyway, Ed Markey is a senator, and Joe Kennedy decided, okay, I want to become U.S. Senator now. So he's doing a primary challenge of Ed Markey. Now, Ed Markey, as I said, my impression of Ed Markey is I would call him a B minus Democrat. He's basically a little bit better than a Bill Clinton Democrat, but he ain't quite a Paul Wellstone level Democrat. He ain't quite he ain't quite a Russ Feingold Democrat. And if you want to call Bernie Sanders a Democrat for all intents and purposes, he sure as hell ain't a Bernie Sanders Democrat. But he's probably closer to a Russ Feingold, a Paul Wellstone, or Bernie Sanders than he would be, let's say, Joe Manchin or Joe Lieberman or Dianne Feinstein or someone like that. So, and I know that Ed Markey is in favor of basic issues like Medicare for all, and he was the first senator to introduce the Green New Deal into the U.S. Senate. And for that, I decided that and he's in favor of a universal basic income. And for these reasons, I had decided that Ed Markey is pretty damn awesome. So maybe I need to knock him up from a B minus to, I would say he's probably, now the more I think about it, an A minus for a Democrat. Joe Kennedy is running as a corporate Democrat to unseat Ed Markey. And so, you got Nancy Pelosi, you got, the Clintons, the Obamas, Barack Obama, you got the whole corporate establishment trying to push forward Joe Kennedy. On the left, you got the progressives, you got the left wing of the Democratic Party, you got primarily, and and most notably now these days, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez decided that she's going to endorse Ed Markey. And considering, as I said, considering who's supporting who, I would say that I'm for. I hope that on September 1st, when the primary election day takes place, I hope that Ed Markey remains basically in charge and defeat Joe Kennedy. I am bothered by Joe Kennedy. The Democratic Party has been trying to push Joe Kennedy for a while, making us think, oh, well, the Kennedys, he's a Kennedy. Oh, the Kennedys, oh, the golden age of America. It ain't the golden age of America if a Kennedy is acting more like a Bill Clinton Democrat than he's acting like Ted Kennedy. Now, granted, Ted Kennedy was not exactly the most virtuous man in existence, and he actually ended up being an ideological mixed bag. Probably a little bit worse than Ed Markey, but Ted Kennedy, Ted Kennedy is more like Ed Markey than he is like Joe Kennedy. I mean, my gosh, it ain't even a contest, and just I'm just like the name is just rubbish now because, as I said, I mean, just because your name is Kennedy doesn't mean that you are by default awesome. I mean, just this whole idea of and I'm going to be mad as hell if Joe Kennedy defeats Ed Markey and Bernie Sanders. I don't know why he is not involved. Other than I don't think that I don't think Ed Markey endorsed Bernie Sanders, and I think maybe Bernie Sanders is a little upset. But here's the thing, I would urge Bernie Sanders to swallow his pride and to back Ed Markey because, I mean, just like the problem with the Democratic Party is too many people like Joe Kennedy. Now, I don't care what your typical Republican Party hack says about the Democrats. The Democratic Party is not a socialist party. It is not a leftist party. The Democratic Party still operates pretty much like a European style conservative party. It's basically in some ways slightly to the right of the British Conservative Party, slightly to the right of the Christian Democratic Union in Germany, slightly to the right of Union for Popular Majority in France. That's the Democratic Party. Oh, they give you the woke image, but what the hell is being woke going to achieve if, on the basis of economics, you're like this like the soft side of Ronald Reagan? I mean, what's the use? I mean, just what's the use? I just, I'm just like this whole idea of creating this Kennedy, recreating this Kennedy thing. Okay, and here's the thing. Oh, I would love to have someone like John Kennedy, JFK in the White House, or Robert Kennedy, who was unfortunately assassinated in 1968. I mean, I would certainly prefer those Kennedys over Bill Clinton or Barack Obama. Um, in 1980, Ted Kennedy primary challenged Jimmy Carter from the left. But and for many years, I looked back at that primary challenge and said, man, I wish that Ted Kennedy would have defeated Jimmy Carter in the primaries. But looking back, Ted Kennedy's been kind of made the slippery slip toward being wishy-washy. Although he was still a little bit better than your typical Democratic politician over the last generation, he still was kind of questionable. And looking back in hindsight, I would say that Jimmy Carter was and is a better man, and was a better man than Ted Kennedy when Ted Kennedy was alive. Um, I mean, Jimmy Carter built homes for the poor. Jimmy Carter travels abroad for to try to resolve bad conflicts within nations abroad, and basically works for human rights. Um, Jimmy Carter might not be a socialist, but or a social democrat per se, but Jimmy Carter is a damn good man. who was very mediocre as president. But he used the bully pulpit of his presidency to do good afterwards. So I would say that Jimmy Carter was the best ex-president we ever had, no question about it. And I would say in my 51 years of living, from Nixon to Ford to Carter to Reagan to Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, Obama, and Trump, of all of them, I would say if I had to choose which president from Nixon all the way to Trump to live that America, I would say Jimmy Carter. I know inflation. You know what? During the Jimmy Carter years, um, the unions were not at 6% of the workforce in the private sector like it is today. There was still more opportunity, and I would say, in a lot of ways, that the economy was more prosperous than it was under Trump. I mean, and this whole Reagan prosperity thing in the 1980s is a canard. I don't know where people got an idea that Reagan restored America's greatness. I mean, I don't know. I mean, with medical inflation spiral under him, homelessness increase under him, um, unions declined, which meant that wages declined. Where do you get the myth that Reagan was this great president? That we should go back to the 1980s when it comes to his policy. I'm all for the 1980s as far as the music was concerned, and certain little cultural uh, apolitical cultural aspects of it. But no, as far as prosperity, as far as and all that, that was a big canard. But anyway, I rambled on and on like I normally do. But suffice to say, I'm just sick and tired of this whole notion of trying to recreate a Kennedy with this Joe Kennedy character who behaves more like Bill Clinton. I'm talking about over terms of policy than he did John F. Kennedy. Believe me, give me 1,000 John F. Kennedys before you give me one of this little thing called Joe Kennedy. I hope he's defeated. And on September 1st, I hope that Ed Markey wins on September 1st. Joe Kennedy, we don't need him. We don't need him. In fact, if Joe Kennedy is defeated on September 1st, when he runs for re-election 2 years from now, I hope that somebody from the progressive community up there in the Boston area challenged Joe Kennedy and and have someone more like a Bernie Sanders type in the U.S. House of Representatives. I hope a Dennis Kucinich type goes and knock Joe Kennedy out of the way and replaces him in Boston. If you like what you heard, press like. If you dislike it, press dislike. Either way, comment, give me your thoughts. Share this channel, the content of this channel. Subscribe, of course. Subscribe. And keep in mind, as a free speech absolutist, I'm obligated to say that if you got a platform, utilize it, because we're the muckrakers of our time. And I'm babbling because I'm kind of sleepy. But anyway, until next time, peace, and Bernie Sanders for president year 2024. And no, I wasn't kidding when I said that.